If there exists even a single opportunity to genuinely unite this entire country following a terrible and public tragedy, it appears President Donald Trump will invariably seize that chance not to bring us together, but instead to fundamentally divide the populace. He is the petty little baby who has spent many long months consistently complaining vociferously about precisely how dangerous he perceives Democratic rhetoric to be. Oh, the Democrats merely pointing out the factual realities that the specific guy who constantly proclaims he wants to be a complete dictator actually wants to be a dictator? Oh, he thinks that's so incredibly dangerous. He spent all of last night actively inflaming tensions, directing unwarranted hate, and focusing entirely on divisive issues.
This happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful.
Now, those 500 new National Guard members would come on top of the already 2,188 Guard members already assigned to D.C. The FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force is leading the investigation into today's shooting, working to determine if it was an act of terrorism. The Secret Service is also looking into whether the shooter intended to target the White House itself or any...
Especially after two courageous National Guardsmen tragically lost their lives. However, all Donald Trump could truly concentrate on was the unproductive blame game. His primary focus was the disgusting, vile, truly hateful, and deeply racist rhetoric. And that hateful rhetoric has demonstrably blown up in his face quite spectacularly. Which is exactly why Karoline Leavitt and the White House are now visibly melting down in a public fashion. We are going to quickly and efficiently get into the specific lie that Trump was definitively caught in and the subsequent reasons why Leavitt is having her visible public meltdown. But before we delve deep into that, if I could very quickly ask you to please leave a simple like on this important video.
We're not going to put up with these kind of assaults on law and order by people who shouldn't even be in our country. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them. America will never bend and never yield in the face of terror. And at the same time, we will not be deterred from the mission these service members were so nobly fulfilling.
And if you haven't already subscribed and you genuinely enjoy our informative channel, please hit that crucial subscribe button, because taking that action goes a very long way in actively supporting all of our essential work. Now, before we get deeply into Karoline Leavitt's full-blown meltdown of a very weak response to Donald Trump, getting unmistakably caught in a significant lie, we absolutely must start with the necessary full context of exactly what transpired yesterday and how Donald Trump is currently reacting in a clearly racist manner. It is practically impossible to fully take this current administration seriously at all when they are responding to, or even just pretending like they deeply care about a major national tragedy, particularly when they have repeatedly demonstrated again and again their overwhelming level of blatant incompetence and precisely how tragically ill-prepared they are to competently deal with practically anything challenging. Kash Patel only yesterday bizarrely stated that he would personally be tracking down this alleged assailant, while that specific individual was, in fact, already officially in custody by law enforcement. And this very same individual is the guy who has moved, I cannot even count the exact number of dedicated FBI agents away from their critical posts to go help ICE thugs or potentially to help Donald Trump cover up the highly controversial Epstein files. So I just don't fully buy into it when these particular guys pretend like they truly and deeply care about the issue. Because if they genuinely did care, they would simply do their actual jobs. And if they truly did care, they would competently respond with genuine compassion instead of the pure, ugly hate that Trump was constantly spewing last night. A lie, by the way, as is almost always the case. It was reported almost immediately right after Donald Trump's misleading speech that Trump had actually approved the National Guard shooting suspect's asylum application. Law enforcement sources have clearly stated that the suspect involved in an ambush near the White House was officially granted asylum in April of that year. So, no, you simply cannot just blame Biden and solely blame Biden and endlessly blame Biden for this particular situation. It is just such utter and complete ridiculousness to suggest otherwise. And of course, the political right is already loudly proclaiming that Democrats were actually hoping that something terrible like this specific event would happen, that Democrats were actively encouraging it, and that we absolutely must stop calling them fascists. Do you know what Laura Loomer's response to yesterday's events was? She is the crazy right-wing conspiracy nut, that truly disgusting individual who receives far too much Botox. I don't even precisely know if it is Botox at this particular point. She is a distinct freak who actively spends all her time alongside Donald Trump. Do you know what her immediate response was? She unequivocally stated on Twitter, "Yeah, I want a king." That is the truly terrifying response that these specific people have. They tell everyone, "Do not dare call us fascists," yet simultaneously say, "But we truly want a king. We want Donald Trump to be an all-powerful dictator." It is utterly and completely insane. And that specific rhetoric, which they refuse to acknowledge, is undeniably dangerous, although they absolutely do not want to pretend it is. They want to consistently pretend like it is not dangerous. Karoline Leavitt definitely wants to pretend like it is not dangerous. Well, the White House was actively having their own profound meltdown while they were trying to do PR communications yesterday because Donald Trump got unequivocally caught in his enormous lie. The sick, disgusting ghoul, as they referred to someone. The White House official account unleashes a barrage on a reporter after the dedicated troops were shot. An official account specifically associated with the White House actually called a well-respected reporter stupid and a sick, disgusting ghoul for simply questioning Donald Trump's National Guard takeover of the greater Washington, D.C. area following the tragic incident in which 2 National Guard troops were shot and injured. This is so tragic, so completely unnecessary. These poor, brave guardsmen should never have been deployed in this manner, wrote Jane Mayer of The New Yorker on X, formerly known as Twitter, in response to the sad news. I live right here in D.C., and I watched firsthand as they had virtually nothing important to do but pick up ordinary trash. It was solely for political show and at what terrible, terrible cost, she concluded. Rapid Response 47, a public relations account for the Trump administration, immediately hit back in a noticeable fury. "You sick, disgusting ghoul," aggressively stated the account. 2 of these brave heroes were just recently shot in broad daylight. The Guard has single-handedly saved countless lives, backed up by undeniable evidence which you are clearly too stupid to properly notice. They are true American patriots. The 2 courageous troops who were shot were initially and incorrectly reported as deceased, but this initial report was later immediately walked back with credible sources confirming they are alive, but currently in very critical condition. Details are still slowly emerging about the arrested suspect, a 29-year-old Afghan named. However, some specific Republicans have already eagerly leapt on a political attack message with Representative Andy Biggs, explicitly blaming the attack on a group of 6 military veteran Democrats who had previously released a simple video reminding all troops that they have a duty to respectfully refuse unlawful orders. It's always, I don't necessarily want to say it's genuinely funny to me, but it's just so utterly gross to consistently watch Republicans, as Democrats are trying to logically process a major tragedy and are trying to collectively figure out effective ways to stop it from happening the next time, then be loudly blamed for politicizing the entire issue. Because when innocent children are massacred in a specific school and we simply say, maybe we genuinely need some common sense gun control, they immediately scream, "Oh, it's completely political. Stop making it political." But then they jump at every single opportunity to say, "Well, I think we should just get rid of all trans people," which seems an incredibly lot more political to me and truly disgusting than merely not wanting young kids to get needlessly shot by lethal weapons that 18-year-olds shouldn't even have any access to, or that absolutely nobody should have any access to in the first place. Why exactly do you need a weapon of war? And they consistently want to say, "It's us, it's us, it's us, it's us." But Donald Trump has explicitly spent the past week, plus some change, continually threatening those Democratic members of Congress, actively sending death threats, and wanting them publicly hung. And you are seriously telling me that the individuals who simply said, "Do not follow illegal orders," are the ones primarily to blame? Is that the specific rhetoric you are so utterly scared of? And why are you so extraordinarily upset that they don't want the troops to follow illegal orders? Why is that? Why is that one simple thing so unnerving to your political faction? What exactly do you need those dedicated troops to illegally do to protect your dear, fragile leader? To help move forward your rapidly fracturing coalition? What exactly do you need them to do? It seems like a blatant self-report to me. And so that is why I have just so seriously struggled with this entire situation, because you can never truly take these people seriously in the slightest. And honestly, I have no desire to. It strongly reminds me of the chaotic aftermath of the Charlie Kirk shooting, when Kash Patel was loudly pretending like this was his best buddy in the whole world, but it took him a ridiculous 48 hours to even get to Utah. And right after the shooting tragically happened, he was like, "Well, I still absolutely have to have I still have to have my panna cotta. Like I'm in a nice Italian restaurant. Maybe we'll do another bottle of red. Let's get a Pinot going. Just keep it nice and light, though. And then maybe eventually I'll start seriously thinking about Charlie." And then they immediately shoved it down our collective throats that we all had to apologize. Had to say we were completely sorry. All of it was our fault. Rhetoric, rhetoric, rhetoric. Also, Donald Trump could loudly say that Democrats are mere animals and disgusting freaks. Actually, on that specific point about animals, Donald Trump, just yesterday, referred to this alleged assailant as an animal himself. And so let us carefully keep that in mind the very next time that Donald Trump says Nancy Pelosi or Jasmine Crockett or AOC that they're a literal animal. He is fundamentally lumping them in with alleged murderers. And so when you strongly say that our precise description of Trump as a fascist is dangerous, when you put it into terms that AOC merely wanting you to be able to reasonably afford a home, or for our planet to not completely burn up in the next 40 years, or for you to simply have free, quality healthcare in the wealthiest country in the whole world, if you truly equate that to the existential life or death threat of murder, and both of these people are considered the exact same. Both of them are vicious animals. What precisely does that say about the dangerous place that Trump is actively putting democratically elected members of Congress into? He is intentionally putting them in grave immediate danger, and they absolutely do not want to talk about that. They specifically do not want to openly discuss that dangerous rhetoric. Again, I just find it utterly laughable that these specific people who actively do nothing whatsoever to keep any of us truly safe, and in fact, the complete opposite, who have consistently torn up the FBI for their own personal political gain, think that they get to actually tell us what is what. It is genuinely laughable, it is truly laughable, in fact, that they seriously think that they get to tell us what is fundamentally wrong with our rhetoric and what we supposedly need to urgently fix, as they consistently call us disgusting animals and dogs and whatever other demeaning word of the week it is for Donald Trump to actively attack Democrats with. And it really, truly, more than anything else, maybe just subtly reveals his profound political weakness. And on this Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving, by the way, if you are having me in your home today, I sincerely appreciate it. I'd like maybe a little, if you have some cornbread. If I'm going to be on the television or on your smartphone, if I could just steal a little piece of cornbread, I know this is a highly important topic that we are currently discussing right now, but if you could perhaps send me a plate, maybe that would be incredibly nice. But on this specific Thanksgiving, I strongly think we have to clearly recognize that for all of Donald Trump's constant threats and his recent radical, extreme lashing out, it entirely represents his fundamental weakness. A weakness I specifically said yesterday is truly something to put a genuine smile on your face, and it certainly does for me right now. He is arguably at the weakest point in his entire political career, at a critical point in which the MAGA faithful recognizes that Donald Trump is no longer the big, scary political bad guy that they should fear. That a primary challenge is unequivocally not the thing that you should fear the most. that it is in fact us, the general public, us people who are perfectly willing to loudly hold those accountable who are bought and paid for by huge corporations, who will definitely go out and enthusiastically vote, who will go out in the millions and protest in the street in historic fashion. It is undeniably us that they truly have to worry about, and that they must urgently figure out what a future looks like without Donald Trump. An idea that is almost completely unimaginable to these specific people. Almost completely unimaginable. Donald Trump, only 2 short years ago, had such a powerful grip on the Republican Party that they would hold televised debates without his presence for the presidency. Their little primary events, Donald Trump didn't even consistently show up. He didn't even necessarily have to show up to the debates they held to carefully see who would be the official Republican nominee for president. And none of those specific people on that stage could even manage to crack, like, 10% of the vote. Do you remember when Nikki Haley was the only listed one on the ballot in places like Arizona or Nevada? And she absolutely lost to, like, none. Like, Nikki Haley lost to the other option, not anyone who was physically on this ballot. She literally lost to no one. Like, there's literally a small box you could definitively check for, like, nah, I don't want any of these people. And Nikki Haley lost. That's the extraordinary type of grip that Donald Trump clearly had over the entire Republican Party 2 years ago. At the very beginning of this year, they were loudly saying he won a sweeping cultural mandate, that everything had suddenly shifted and drastically changed. That is obviously not and never was the case. I knew it was absolutely never the case. We know it's certainly not the case now, but they can no longer push that tired lie. This Republican Party is fundamentally weak. They are frantically scrambling. They are severely fractured. It will absolutely never be the same again for Donald Trump. There is no possibility of going up from this position. This is down. It is either a consistent plateau of bad news or simply further down into the hole as they only have many more devastating election losses on the horizon. That is specifically what Donald Trump has to look forward to. Investigations from determined Democrats, resignations from disillusioned Republicans, and brutal election losses. That is it. And so on this Thanksgiving, I am deeply thankful that we have a strong coalition of people who are always actively fighting this administration, who are consistently here to be fully engaged. I am personally thankful for you. I am deeply thankful for this incredible opportunity. I am thankfully pleased that last week, according to official YouTube statistics, this show was actually more watched than Tucker Carlson's. What up? And so we are going to keep on fighting with your essential support. And if you genuinely want to support that effort, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. Leave a generous like on this video. If you stuck around until the very end, please drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, all of you. Don't let them silence your voices. Happy Thanksgiving. And until next time, which will likely be later today, I will certainly see you